So it's February 12th, and our homework tonight is Lesson 16 homework number 1. In class, we talked about how there's a conversion here from feet to inches that we need to keep an eye out for. And this idea that 1 foot equals 12 inches, this should be something that we have memorized at this point. So if this is something that you don't know off the top of your head, it's something that I'd like you to work on memorizing over the next weekend or so. Really work on that however you can. So tonight's problem says solve and show your thinking with a tape diagram. So we're moving away from that rectangular fraction model that we've been using to show multiplying fractions, and we're going to start to mainly focus on that tape diagram at this point and just multiply our fractions using numerical math and not that multiplication model where you split it up vertically, then split it up horizontally. So let's look at the problem. Anthony bought an 8-foot board. He cut off 3/4 of the board to build a shelf and gave 1/3 of the rest to his brother for an art project. And when I boxed that in, I just brought up the word brother so that it can kind of be together there. The question here is how many inches long was the piece Anthony gave to his brother? And we saw that when we went from feet to inches, that indicated that we were going to have a conversion there. Now you can convert at the beginning or you can convert at the end. And if you convert at the beginning, your math is going to be a little different than mine, but you'll still get the same final answer of 8 inches. So just know that if you convert it at the very beginning, your numbers are going to be different than mine. But some of looking at that tape diagram might be similar because it's the same tape diagram, just it'll be with different numbers if you've already converted to inches. So let's start by drawing our tape diagram. Okay, this is going to represent the 8-foot board that Anthony bought. We start with that first sentence there because really after underlining and boxing in and writing our answer statement out, just start with sentence 1, draw what you know. And I actually forgot to write my answer statement, so let's write that over here. We want to match the question as closely as we can. How many inches long was the piece Anthony gave to his brother? The piece Anthony gave to his brother was blank inches long. And remember, our abbreviation for inches is IN there, okay? So let's go back to that first sentence. Anthony bought an 8-foot board. So that's the total length of this board he's buying. So I'm going to label that 8 feet. And you want to include your unit of measurement there because especially when we have a conversion here, we want to keep it straight what that really represents. And here it's 8 feet. So we're done with that first sentence. We showed the information in our picture. So we're going to move to the next sentence. He cut off 3/4 of the board to build a shelf and gave 1/3 of the rest to his brother. Now I'm going to split this up into 2 parts. He cut off 1/3 of the board, and I'm going to put a roadblock there. We're going to just focus on this piece of information first. He cut off 3/4 of the board. I know here that I can shade this in as 3/4 of the board. And that's what he uses to build a shelf. And actually, I can move my roadblock on the other side of the word shelf here. So he's using this amount for the shelf. Oops, sorry, hang on 1 second. Sorry, the lights are on a timer. So he's using 3/4 of the board to build a shelf. I've cut it into 4 equal parts. I've shaded 3 out of the 4 to represent 3/4. Now this is for the shelf. And I'm looking here at this picture already. And we know that to find the size of each piece, when you know the total amount, you could take the total, divide by the number of pieces to find out the number in each group here. So I could take that 8 and divide by 4 to figure out the size of each group here. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So I know that each and every box here is worth 2, okay? 2 feet, actually. So let's put that unit of measurement in there. Okay. So that's a simple, you take the total amount, divide by the number of groups to find the size of one group. And when I know one group is 2 feet, each and every other group is 2 feet because these boxes are the same size, the same shape, and the same value. Okay, so he cut off 3/4 of the board to build a shelf. I'm gonna check that off, we showed that. And he gave 1/3 of the rest to his brother. Now hang on a second, where is the rest in here? If this is what he builds the shelf out of, the rest is this part here. So I'm gonna label that rest. Oops, it's been a long day. Rest. So we're gonna give 1/3 of the rest to his brother. So to be able to split this up into fractional parts, I'm gonna drop that box straight down. And I'm gonna redraw it down below, and it's gonna be the same size, shape, and value as above. So I know that right now, this part here is 2 feet, okay? Because each piece here was 2 feet. So this is just the rest dropped down. That's still the total for this box is 2 feet. He's gonna give 1/3 of the rest to his brother. So I'm gonna split this up into 3 equal parts and shade in 1/3 of it. Now I see here that I have 2 as my whole, and I have 3 equal parts. Well, we talked earlier about how when you know the whole amount and you know the number of groups, you can take the whole amount and divide by the number of groups to find the number in one group. Here we have one group bracketed. So we can take the total amount. So I'm gonna label this work rest so that I know that what I'm finding, oh, actually, I'm not going to. I'm going to label it 1/3 of the rest. Okay, so to find 1/3 of the rest, that's one out of these pieces. My whole is 2, so I can do 2 divided by the number of groups to find the size of one group. 2 divided by 3. Now we know a fraction's an unfinished division problem, so I can just rewrite that as 2/3. Right? And that's 2/3 feet. Let's not forget our unit of measurement. So 2 divided by 3 is 2/3 feet. You also could have looked at this as 1/3 of 2 whole feet, right? So if I looked at that as 1/3 of 2 whole feet, I would still get 2/3 foot as my answer there. So whether we look at this as a fraction of the whole amount or using division to solve it, we still get 2/3 feet here. So I'm going to erase my question mark here, and I know that 1/3 of the rest, he gave his 1/3 of the rest to his brother. What he gave his brother is 2/3 feet. Now be careful, it says how many inches long was the piece Anthony gave to his brother? Well, we know that piece was 2/3 feet, so now we have to show a conversion here. And so I'm going to box in this work separately so that you can see, you know, this went with figuring out the size of one group, this went with figuring out the size of this group here, 1/3 of the rest, and now we're going to convert our answer. So we start with 2/3 feet. And we want to find out how many inches that is. So we write 2/3 feet equals blank inches. Now we've done conversions for a long time this year, since September even. So the first step is to drop down your units and drop down your equal sign. Second step is to look at your units down here, feet and inches, and you figure out which is the bigger unit of measurement. I know 1 foot is bigger than 1 inch, so the 1 is going to go in front of the bigger unit, 1 foot. Now we have this equivalence here. 1 foot equals blank inches. And we talked earlier up here about how 1 foot equals 12 inches. So I'm going to fill that information in. Now I cover up where the 1 is in the bottom here, and I circle what's left. And because my circle ends up being diagonal, much like the lines in the multiplication sign, we know we're going to multiply these. So we take 2/3 times 12. Now there's a couple different ways that you can multiply that, right? We know we practice 2/3 times 12 as being the same as 2 times 12 over 3 times 1. And you can look for something that is related, that has a common factor. And I see 3 and 12. And I know I can, 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 4 is 12. So I can simplify these by dividing by 3. I can do 3 divided by 3, and I know that cancels out to be 1 whole, because 1 times 3 equals 3. And I can do 12 divided by 3, which I know cancels out to be 4, because 4 times 3 equals 12. So my problem becomes 2 times 4 over 1 times 1, which is 8 over 1, or 8 inches. Okay? Or we can solve this by multiplying across the top. 2 times 12 is 24. Multiply across the bottom, 3 times 1 is 3. Here I have 24 thirds, which is the same as 24 divided by 3, because a fraction is an unfinished division problem. Well, I think what times 3 equals 24, and we should know that fact. 8 times 3 equals 24, so 24 divided by 3 equals 8. Here it's 8 inches. You fill it in up here. So 2/3 feet equals 8 inches. That represents the piece that he gave to his brother, so we can fill in our answer statement. The piece Anthony gave to his brother was 8 inches long. Okay, good luck with your homework tonight. I hope this helps, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow in class. Have a good night.